Hello, everyone. A bit of a late start. We'll apologise for that. It was Tom and Nathaniel's fault, I promise you. It was nothing to do with me. I was waiting.
I was here first, and
refreshment break. Yeah, but then when we was about to start, you decided you needed a drink. So, you could have done that in that time you were waiting, couldn't you? Let's be honest. Probably not the happiest of episodes this week for obvious reasons. 3 losses on the bounce. Obviously, starting with the QPR game, Sheffield United, and then most recently, Stoke City at home. So, we was going to do an episode on Sheffield United. We obviously ended up having to cancel that one. So we'll just talk about Stoke. I think that's enough negativity for one episode, isn't it? We'll just mention the one game. Obviously, before we start, yes, we are sponsored by 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar in Hull. So do head over to their websites or Facebook pages on our link tree. Give them a visit. And I think we're 4 days away from finding out whether or not we've made the FCA finalists. Quite exciting times. So again, anybody that voted for us, thank you, and fingers crossed that we get at least able to attend, I suppose. I'm obviously joined this week by Nathaniel and Tom. How are we doing, lads? We all right?
Yeah, well, still recovering from that Tuesday game, to be fair. Watching that crap.
You all right, Nathaniel?
Not great. I've got the sniffles, and it's really cold here. But I've got some Doritos and some cider, so I'll cope.
Yeah, every cloud has a silver lining, doesn't it? Let's be honest. So obviously, we might as well just jump straight into the Stoke game because a game I think that the majority of us probably went into fairly confident. I mean, I was, despite.
Until I saw the lineup.
Well, until the lineup was announced, yeah. It was a strange lineup. I mean, we'll just go straight on to that then. So, when the team selection came out on a scale, so obviously I'll come to you first, Tom. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how surprised were you?
I wasn't surprised at all. I wasn't surprised. I just don't think the manager's learning from his previous mistakes. I mean, you can't play a system like we have 5 at the back when you've got Coyle and Alder as your wing backs. We've seen them this season, Coyle and Alder, and they've flourished in a 4 at the back system. As soon as you put them in a 5 at the back, the struggle. Like when we've had success playing this system, like we did under McCann with KLP and Longman as the wing backs, we actually played well. And then when you put 2 limited players there, like that aren't very good going forward, we saw a struggle, and that was the main issue for me. Our midfield was getting lost in the game because we had Tufan, obviously Faber forward, and then we had just Slater and Seri getting overrun, and then couple that with the wing backs getting overrun as well because we had no support. That was just where we was getting caught, like on the counter attack. Like there was spells in the game where we had quite a bit of possession, and then they just hit us and got a corner, and they scored them scrappy goals, and then
So you see, because I find it weird because obviously last season we've pretty much got the majority of players available, if you obviously take injuries into account, that we had last season, like Coyle, Greaves, McLaughlin, etc., Elder, and we all wanted the 3/5 at the back last season because we said it suited these players more. Yeah. And I find it strange that we've added more attacking talent to it and not really changed the defense much, but yet now we want in the 4 at the back. So. I'll come back at you, Tom, and I'll say, so what's changed in that sense? How come now we're more suited to a 4 than the 5 at the back?
I think we do have a lot more talent in that midfield area. I think before you had Smallwood in there, Doherty, no disrespect to Doherty as well, but you had players that are going to unlock defences. But now we've got players where we need to protect our defence with 2 players in front, and then we've got the attacking talent in that 4. You left wing, right wing, central attacking midfield and strikers. To me, it screams 4-2-3-1. You've brought in the likes of Pelkas, Tufan, who could play in behind the striker. Obviously, Pelkas can play wide as well. I think in your wingers, you've got Cynic, who's going to come back. You've got Harvey Vale. You've got all these talented players. Of course, obviously, Ali is out injured, and so is Tete. But you've got enough players there to play the system with Oscar as the lone striker. And I think if we can. I do think this defence needs more protection, so I think going forward I'd like to see 2 players sitting in front of the defence, like maybe that's Simmons with Seri. Them 2 could build up a partnership. Unfortunately, drop Slater, play Tufan a little bit further forward, and then I think this team's more suited to a counter-attacking sort of system because we've got the pace now in the wide areas to be able to break forward. but we're not really good at controlling the game. So I think we have to play to our strengths. Last season, we was really good at counter-attacking and was good defensively because we sat back, so it took the pressure and hit them with like Keane Lewis Potter. And that's what I think we've got to do. I think we've just got to play to our strengths more, and we're not doing that currently, and that's why we're struggling. Because I do have sympathy a bit for Shorter because he's not ever been able to put out his fully fit best team, consistently. And then obviously bringing in more players, it's going to take time. I think that's the main thing. I'm not calling for Shorter to go yet because I think he deserves that time with these players, but I think he has to realise quickly, Championship's unforgiving, and you've got to learn from your mistakes quick.
I mean, if you go on social media now, Nathaniel, I think there's pretty much a mixed bag with fans' attitude towards Shorter at the minute. Obviously, it's not just this season that he's been with us. He's been with us since last January. So he's had pretty, I would say enough time to get a feel of the Championship, understand, what he needs to be doing, how difficult it can be, how tactically maybe diverse you have to be to sort of face every different challenge that's coming at you every single week. Do you think maybe that we're being a bit too harsh on him, or do you think maybe it's justifiable?
Well, I think definitely after this last game on Tuesday, which, I mean, that was one of the first games I predicted we'd actually be able to get a win. It's extremely disappointing to lose that, especially the two previous ones, QPR and Sheffield United, are decent teams, but I really expected a lot better against Stoke. I mean, what I said before the season started, up until Tuesday, we were where I predicted us to be, which was 11th. We're 9 games in, and although Shorter should understand the Championship by now, definitely, because he's been, I don't know how many games it is now, but it must be at least 25 or 30, I guess. But this season does feel completely unattached to the previous one. We have got a huge new squad, and maybe we should have gone back to the way we were playing last year, where we were soaking up pressure and we were getting those tight 1-0 wins, especially away from home. But we've not done that this season. Maybe he's not allowed to do that. Maybe Adrian wants him to be more positive, and that's why we're trying to go forward, but concede a lot of goals as well. We're not even 10 games in, but even if we did win at the weekend, it would still be a bit of a disappointing 10 games with the squad we will potentially have. But it's too early to say we want him out, but it's not too early to say we're concerned because the performances haven't been good enough of late. I just think, especially, give him the international break, to give him some proper time, because it's been a very tough period. He needs that time, the 2-week break, to, hopefully build some sort of system, because a lot of the new lads haven't even come in yet. So I'm Shorter in at the moment because I think he did a decent job last year, which I won't forget immediately. But of course, another 9 games like this, and obviously he might not look like the man that would eventually get us where we want to be.
Yeah, obviously, anybody listening, I've noticed we've got quite a few viewers on with us tonight. If you want to put forward your thoughts on Shorter or recent performances, do stick them in and we'll try and talk about them. But for me, it's weird because I always try and be consistent with the way that you either praise or praise or criticize somebody. And I've said this before, that my biggest problem with McCann was his stubbornness to not kind of see what the problem is and try and fix it. And continue playing this way that, this is the system that I want to use, so I'm going to use it. I think in circumstances like what we've got, where there's so many players injured and so many players out of form, like if you look at the likes of Alfie Jones, he's not anywhere near the kind of player that, we're used to seeing with Jones. He's really in a dip of form at the minute. Figueiredo's, he's also started well and then started to tailor off. And you've got a couple of players that are playing under the weather, but you can't replace them because we maybe we should have looked at signing another centre half in the window. But we've got Sean McLaughlin in the ranks, who I'm not opposed to having 2 left-footed centre backs in the back 4. Loads of teams have 2 right footers, so it's obviously not an issue. It's not ideal to have a left footer on the right hand side, obviously, but to take Jones and sort of Figueiredo out of the firing line for a bit, get Maka in there, who, has played alongside that back four already last season, or back five, whatever Shotter's going to choose to do. But he's got those options to do it. But for me, a manager has to get the best out of the players that he's currently got. So, yeah, it's all well and good saying, we're suffering because of all these injuries and whatnot. The only player we're really missing out of the back four is Fleming. So, defensively, we should be okay. I know we're missing, that more brutish Smallwood approach in the middle. And we've gone, slightly more technical and attacking in the midfield with the signings that we've made. But you have to look at the players that you've got available and think, right, what system, what approach is going to get the best out of these players? We did it for a while when we had Tete, because we could use him as a wide outlet. He could hold the ball up and it'd bring Estepinian into the game. We've lost that outlet now, so we've got to play a different way. Now we're trying to play out from the back, but we don't realistically play the formation that suits that. So, I said to Nathaniel on this before we started, I was watching the highlights just to sort of revisit the goals and look at it in a less emotional way, obviously, because you don't really look at the pros or cons of goals when you're watching them live. But we're just so slow on the ball. And, I was watching, I think I tweeted out, I watched the Sunderland and Reading game. And they lost. Yeah, their striker got injured. They didn't have a recognised striker on the pitch, and they still managed to win 3-0. Why? Because he changed the system. He changed the way he brought on Embleton to play as like a false nine and drop a bit deeper, which allowed the wingers to have a bit more space in behind. These are the kind of variations you've got to have in your game as a manager to be successful in this league. And obviously, Shotter's not realistically had a massive amount of time to maybe learn that. But he has had enough time to know that, all right, yeah, we're shipping in far too many goals at the minute. Let's resort to a deeper formation, play a different way, see if we can start. Because the thing is, you can forgive conceding so many goals if you're going up the other end and scoring them too, which obviously it was at the beginning. But at the minute, we're not even creating chances, which is the worry.
It had been that the performances. I'll just put up this comment that we haven't exactly deserved any of the wins we've got. Which, potentially could be true. But the thing we were saying at the time was that if we're winning and playing badly, imagine how good we'll be when we're playing better. But unfortunately, that's not happened. And I think we've probably found out, we've started getting the results that our performances from the beginning sort of deserved. I feel like maybe Bristol City was perhaps the only game where we were the better team. And that was only like the second half. Maybe you'll disagree with that. But I don't know whether changing formation is exactly the way forward, because the last game we won was 3 at the back, and the last time we played 4 at the back, we lost. Those are just the 2 matches, but I think it probably goes. It's not just the formation. Maybe that's a problem, but we've got a few things to iron out.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, because for me, I was thinking back at the QPR game, we started with a 4 at the back, and that first half was one of the worst I've seen in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And we looked better when we switched to a 3. So, we're kind of having 6 of one and 7 of the other at the minute. But it's, I don't know. We're all sat here, criticising Shotter maybe for not changing stuff. Maybe he's looking at them and going, I'm not sure how to stop this. I've played 4 at the back and we were crap, and I'm playing 5 at the back and we're crap. To me, he's just got to, the lads like Jones and Figueiredo that are going through a little dip, he's got to take them aside and, try and
Ingram as well,
get them doing the basics again. Ingram, and
he's taken out. I think last season when Ingram had that dip in form, Baxter came in, and that was a catalyst for our changing form. I think having that changing keeper, we've got 2 very good keepers. I think when one has a dip in form, the other can come in and sort of take that sort of limelight.
Absolutely.
I think that could, I think as well, going back to the point about the centre-backs, I don't think we necessarily have the players to play out from the back. We've seen Nottingham Forest criticise Figueiredo for his inability to play with the ball, and we've seen that now. And also Jones as well. I think if you play a 3 at the back, you need to rely on your centre-backs to come out with the ball. I think last season when we had Deschamps Bernard, he was very well suited to 3 at the back because he played right centre-back. He could play with the ball at his feet because that's what he's taught at Man United. And he was very quick as well, so he was able to recover. And then obviously Shotter came in, didn't like him and never really played. But I think that's the sort, in order to play the system, you've got to have quick sort of right and left centre-backs. But there's many times this season where we've been bent down either side because of lack of pace. brought in Cyrus Christie, who isn't no slouch, I think, but he's still getting to speed as well. So we've got options in the wing-back areas, obviously waiting for Fleming to come back. But I think in order to sort of play to our strengths more, we need to sort of take the emphasis off the centre-backs playing with the ball and get our midfielders into the game. Well, I think we saw against Stoke that sometimes our midfield is non-existent. Like, you had the centre-backs coming out with the ball and no one was showing for it, and you can blame the centre-back there for not finding the pass, but if there's no pass to find, then what are they supposed to do? Like, you end up having to hit a ball long. It's just, it's a bit crap.
I put that comment up because obviously you mentioned about Elder and Cole probably not having the best of times at the minute. I think, it can be easy to scapegoat the wing backs in these kind of systems. It can. But I do sit on the side that, you see, last season I didn't think that Coyle would suit a wing back system. He did well in the wing-back system last season, and he started this season well. And I think defensively he's very good. I just don't... I mean, saying that, his crosses have been decent as well this season. I just don't think he has the pace. I think you have to be a bit quicker to be a wing-back.
To be able to get up and down. I think that is the hardest... Apparently it's the hardest position to play because you always have to be up and down. I think the first half against Stoke, we saw Elder get into some really promising positions. He saw it a couple of times, and he didn't pick out the right cross. It was just frustrating, I think. It's just the element of we're not moulding together as a team yet. I think there's a lot of individual players in our team, and we're not sort of like putting in the performance. It shows obviously how many signs we've made. I think you've got to give these players time to gel together, but it's frustrating, I guess, like from our point of view. But I think hopefully eventually we'll come right. But yeah.
I think probably from Shotter's perspective, he's very frustrated because I think the injury to Fleming has had a big sort of maybe a large part of why we're struggling with the three at the back because as Elder was very good in a 4-3-3 in League One. I don't think he has the positional awareness or defensive capabilities to do a wing back system. I think he gets caught out a lot. He looks good going forwards, but he gets caught out a lot going back. And then Coyle's kind of the opposite, where because he's not that fast, he kind of reluctantly goes forward until he gets an opportunity. But then if we lose the ball, he's out of position and stuck up the top. Yeah. So, either side can sort of get targeted and just be, the weak point of that game. I don't necessarily think we've got a weaker side. I think it just, depends on the opposition we're facing and the winger they're up against. But I think if, we've got a fully fit Cyrus Christie that's, trained a while, got used to the players around us. You've got Christie on one side in the right wing back, and you've got Fleming in the left wing back. It sounds a lot better of a proposition, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean,
I do think one issue I think we've got is that we didn't have enough tenacity in that game. I think it's not as though they wanted it more. I think they're just winning them second balls, and when you win in the second balls, you always give yourself that chance. I think the first two goals they scored were basic, really. Look, first one, Tyler Smith checks back. For some reason, is out on the edge of our box making that foul. Whether it was a foul or not, someone said it wasn't, but I've not seen it back. But even so, why would you make a challenge there anyway when we've got our defenders back? Obviously, they take the free kick. It's fortuitous the way it deflects in. Second goal is from a set piece from a corner. That Wilmot comes free. He scores.
And then the third goal should be doing better on that.
Third goal, you can criticise. I think maybe the two midfielders, Slater and Seri. They both lose the man. You see, if you watch it back, you see Slater, like the player 1-2. Slater's not alert to it. And then the score, but it was a really well worked goal from them. To be fair, it was a really nice goal. But that was smart. That was, to be fair, when you see a goal going like that, you think there's not really much you can do. But first two, very avoidable. So I think going forward, we have to stop these sort of sloppy mistakes. For a while, even last season under McCann as well, was our Achilles heel was defending set pieces, and this season again it is.
We've got a very young side still. We've signed a few more that are sort of like in their prime, but a lot, especially defensively. Jones and Greaves, plays like that. There is Slater. There's probably a bit of naivety in the game because we've still got one of the, I think, average youngest sides in the league. I don't know after the amount of signings we've made, but to me, the individual errors have got more this season, and the defensive, it just looks very disjointed. Like last season when we were defending, there were clear lines. Everyone knew what they were doing. even under Shotter towards the end of the season, I think he made us harder to beat than what we were under McCann. And then this season, we kind of haven't seen that. And I don't know if it's because we're constantly tinkering with personnel and shape that they've not been able to get any structure in, obviously, training sessions and partnerships formed kind of thing. But the errors, like you say, are really costing us at the minute. And when you're not creating chances, those errors have to be cut out. Because if the moment we go 1-0 down now, I'm struggling to think about how we're going to get back into this game, because we then need to score 2 to win. And when we're only creating, 5 or 6 chances a game, you're going to struggle to do that. I mean, Stoke had, I think, double the amount of shots we did, and we were at home, and they were 20th place.
I spoke about this before, like even before we was losing our games, and I said how clinical we've been this season. We're not going to keep up this 50% conversion rate. I think we had 20 shots on target and scored 10 goals from it. Like, that's unheard of, that clinical rate. I think even Oscar as well. I think it's Sky Sports shared a stat. I think he's had 13 shots on target and scored 7 goals.
Yeah. And he's started to miss chances now, hasn't he? So
that's
clearly
that's... It's once the opportunities dry up, you struggle to see where the goals are coming from. I mean, like you touched on earlier, in terms of performances, I've not really been impressed with a whole performance this season. We've looked good in spells, in halves, but not for the full game. Like against Preston away, I went there, we drew 0-0. We conceded 24 shots on goal. And that day, Ingram deserves a lot of credit. He made some huge saves and kept us in the game. And again, so I remember against Norwich, the opening 10-15 minutes, they could have been out of sight with the amount of good chances they had, if you remember. And then we obviously go on to win the game. But now, what it feels like is that earlier on in the season, we weren't punished. Now against sort of like the opposition like Sheffield United and Stoke coming to the MKM, we're getting punished more. And we have to just stop the rot, I think. It's just, it's not good.
We definitely need to, steady the ship, as the saying goes, and just try and go back to not conceding, and then, any 1 or 2 goals you get, then you can kind of protect. We can't be going into games now, going 2 or 3 goals down early on in the game, because, I think we've conceded 18 goals already this season. Worst defence in the league by about 5 goals, I think.
I think we're the second worst or joint second worst in England, which is quite bad.
Which tells the story.
Might be different after the weekday games, but I don't know. Pretty bad anyway.
Yeah.
But it's obviously, like I said, and this is it's a good comment that from me, and crossing has been terrible. Has Oscar had an effort with his head yet? I don't actually think I can remember him having a header.
Other than the goal he's got.
Yeah. I mean, he did have a header yesterday. Well, not yesterday, on Tuesday.
Very few, though.
On the edge of the box. Like, literally, a cross came in and he had to direct his header like on the edge of the 18 yard.
That's his biggest strength, really. Like, he's an Andy Carroll. If you see the goals he scored in Portugal, half of them are headers. It was same with Tom Eaves when Tom Eaves came in. Same with Oscar. It was that he'd scored the most headed goals in the last 2 years in that league. The Portuguese division is better than League One, of course. But yeah, again, we've got a big target man striker, and we're not playing to his strengths.
The thing is, when he does receive the ball, he looks dangerous. Like, his build-up play is good. You give him the ball, he can hold it up. The problem is we're not getting it to him enough, and he's not getting into early on in the season he was, but now because we're not good going forwards, we're not committing bodies into the box, and we're not creating enough chances for him. So he's just struggling. I think it's hard to criticise a striker like that when we're not creating that many chances, because that's what he feeds off. But ultimately, that's what you want, and it's a struggle really, because it's the thing is, this is why I want to see the likes of Harvey Vale, Cynic come in and start from the off, like in a system with wingers, because I think I think we'd play much, but I think it's more direct football instead of what we're doing now, because when you look at the 5 at the back we played, you've got Coy and Alder as the wingers, essentially up and down, whereas if you had put another 2 wingers in there, more protection for the full-backs, I think it could work better.
I mean, because we've had that same problem for a while, haven't we? Because we all knew what Tom Eaves' strengths was, and we still persisted to not put the ball in the box, and he'd end up then having to go out to the wing to try and get a touch of the ball, and then he's not in the box where he's most dangerous, and therefore wasn't scoring goals. Estepinian this season has shown me, and I think the most frustrating thing is at the minute watching City, is that this guy's on 7 goals and we've created next to nothing for him. Most of the goals he's scored have been things that he's made himself. So if we were putting, the I mean, yeah, he's missed a couple of chances now that
a couple of golden ones, but
QPR and he had a couple, didn't he, against Stoke? But
Sheffield United, he had 2 against Sheffield United, didn't he?
Yeah, the one against Sheffield United that definitely should have gone in. But
yeah,
we've got this situation. We've got a striker now that if we create him 4 or 5 chances a game, he's more than likely going to put 1 or 2 of them in. As well as the extra ones he's going to gain us by the goals that we've seen already this season, by harassing defenders and forcing mistakes and getting them sort of.
You can't rely on those, can you? Yeah.
No, they've got to be your bonuses. You've got to create these chances, score consistently, and all the set piece goals, the scraps that Estepinian picks up in the box. These are your difference between mid-table and playoffs. So you've got to. What enrages me about watching City at the minute is how slow and sort of sideways, how negative we are with the ball. Now, I know Shotta wants to play a possession style. That's fair. But at least make it a progressive. Try and create spaces, try and get forward in the pitch, make it be a bit quicker, up the tempo, because we're getting into situations regularly now in games where we pass it along the back 5. It goes to one of the wing backs. When we've got no movement ahead of the ball, we end up having to go back to the centre backs, back to the keeper, back to the other wing back, and repeat. And sometimes when the wing backs are getting into crossing positions, try a cross from deep. Just ask questions of the defence. We're not asking questions of opposition defences enough this season, I don't think. We're not. You've got to sometimes force your own luck in games. The more times you put the ball in the box, the more likely you are maybe a bit of a pinball situation goes on, or a deflection or something like that. But we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to get those goals because we're not putting the ball in the box. We're more than happy to be sideways, keep the ball. But then it's just possession for possession's sake, as we're seeing in games recently. We're not, we're playing the way that teams want us to play. They're coming into the game and their manager's probably saying to them, look, these guys are just going to pass it sideways, let them do it. Just, keep your structure and they won't create anything. Then they go out there and we do exactly that. So it's just, we've got to be a bit more direct. We've got to ask a bit more questions and tempo has to be faster. But then again, it's probably that lack of understanding between some players who obviously haven't played together much, that's going to come with time. But the issue is, I think the shot has got, is it going to be too late by the time, we get a lot of these players back and that it all starts clicking? Because I think if Ajin gets to around December time and we're lingering around, 17th, 18th position, I think Shotta might be a bit worried because, the amount of money that he spent on wages for Seri and everybody, he's going to want, I would imagine, a significant improvement in terms of like mid-table at least. Obviously, we don't know. That's just speculation. That's me guessing. But to me, he's got, like we said, because when he first hired Shotta, it was, we're going to get exciting attacking football, and we're still yet to see that. So, it's a tough one, isn't it? And like you said, the goals, I think we pretty much covered it with the first one, very unlucky, cruel deflection, which nearly happened earlier on in the game as well. Didn't it? And then the second one, I just think is so many times that's happened now where teams put the ball to the far post and we've got about 3 or 4 defenders clustered in the same area and then nothing comes of it. But this time was different because Ingram came out to it as well, but also didn't try to punch it. It just went over his head.
Well, there's several players between him and where the ball lands. It was a poor decision to come out, really. No man's land.
He should have stayed where he was. Yeah. So, maybe that's the error that forces his hand and puts backs to him. Because I just think that it's similar to how it is last season, because it's not the fact that we want to drop Ingram, because we know how good Ingram can be. I think it's just sometimes a case of, a slight change can reinvigorate and refocus people. And I think Baxter commands his area that bit better. I think that's what makes Baxter a better goalkeeper than Ingram, is that his ability to... distribution is a lot better, and his ability to structureize and organize his defense in a way that, he's very vociferous. He knows exactly where players are meant to be, and we're a bit more organized in front then. And that might just be the kind of change that we need to make coming into games. And I would probably do it this weekend against Swansea, especially when we're on Sky. We never win on Sky. It's not a good sign, is it?
Going back to the Stoke game, I think when you said about teams coming there to play against us and they know what our strengths are, I think what they did was they thought, look, this team's a possession-based team, or they try to be. Let's just press them. Let's get in their faces, and that's what they did. In order to sort of execute a possession style, you have to be comfortable playing out from the back. You saw how Sunderland did against Reading from the goalkeeper. If you've got the confidence with the ball at your feet, everyone's sort of intertwined into the system. They know how it works. You can see how well the sort of build-up play can work with possession-based style. Like Tony Mowbray, that's his sort of forte, possession-based. But when you haven't got all your team, there to all your team back, like you've got injured players out and stuff like that, I think it's hard to sort of play that system. It's just about like you said, moving the ball forward quicker.
It's the movement. We can play this way, and it could work, and we certainly have. I think the caliber of player to play the way he's trying to. I just don't think that at the minute the approach is correct. For me, the likes of Suri, Slater, there has to be more rotation in the middle. Players have to be dropping deeper because at the minute our back five are getting the ball and they've got no options, and it just comes straight back to them every single time. And then we wait for us to sort of switch it to one side and then hope that the wing back on the opposition flank has got in behind so that we can play a long ball. And that's literally our only way of attacking at the minute. We can't seem to get through in the middle because teams have identified that the likes of Tufan and Suri are going to be the danger men. So they kind of crowd us out in the middle and try and force us out wide where we're essentially weaker. So at the minute, we're completely nullified in every game. So the middle has to become more proactive. They have to move about, want the ball, find spaces. And at the minute when we've got the ball, everyone's just static. And I'm not sure why. I mean, if I was a manager on the sideline and I'm watching my players stand still when somebody's got the ball, I'd be livid. When I used to play Sunday League, I used to shout at anybody that was stood still when I had the ball because I don't want to be pressured into losing the ball.
Shota does seem to be one who's a manager who's very vocal on the touchline. You can see he's very frustrated. So he's obviously not. I don't think the way we're playing is what we're supposed to be. By the way, Shota's talking in the press conferences and stuff. He's clearly trying to work on this. So. But you were saying earlier about how we're a sort of dull, slow, possession-based side. So it's going to be very boring on Saturday because that's what Swansea sort of are as well. You're muted, Tom.
You've muted yourself, Tom.
Right. You know what? If we play on Saturday, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, whatever variation you want to call it, I think if you sit back against Swansea, soak up pressure and hit them on the counter-attack, that's what you've got to do. I think if you try and go out there and play football, I think it's not going to work.
We've got to go out there to not lose now, and then just hope that the chances come that we can sort of take one and smash and grab it.
If you look at our team now, you've got the pace in the attack, you've got the skill, Pelkas, Tufan to break quickly. You saw against Burnley, Tufan running on beyond Estepinian, and that's how he gets his goal. I think if you've got willing runners in behind, when you've got just two wing backs that are stationary. And they're not always going to get forward, I think that's when you're going to struggle. But if you've got two wingers there that can fight the life out of the opposition fullback and beat them, and that's what... Look how many times Pelkas got down that right side in the second half and beat the man and put a cross into the box. He's skillful. You literally, as soon as he came on the pitch, he did a back heel. And, he just knows where the players are on the pitch. He's got that experience. He's a Greek international, played at the highest level. So I think you've got to start from the off. You've got to go at this.
I think it's a telling sign is that we tend to finish games stronger. So whatever we start with tends to be wrong. And then we change it at half time to what it should have been. And it ends up, we end up playing better, but the game's gone.
Yeah, because that's obviously when Stoke are 2-0 up, they're not going to be going all gung-ho to get a goal. So I think they're sitting back, so they're allowing us to have the ball. So it makes us look a bit better in a sense. But I do agree with your point that from the off, we're not exactly giving ourselves the best start by playing the team we are. I think I can see to a certain extent what he's trying to do with the 5 at the back system, 5-3-2, compact, in defence, solid, but it's not working out that way. I think, I think what Shotta expects is the wing backs to push up high. But if the wing backs push up high, you need the centre mids to drop in. It's that understanding, I think, that, I think last season when we played that system, a lot of the time, Small would drop in, into the sort of the back three, so we'd have more protection. So when the opposition did break, there was at least 4 players back to defend, and he was able to break up play. But like you touched on before, we don't have that breakup player right now in the squad. Well, we do. Like that Simmons could be that guy. but he's not playing. Obviously, Alfie Jones, when he's played there, is that player.
Yeah.
He played really well against Burnley when he was the holding midfielder. So
he was very poor against QPR in that position. So he's
that's what I mean. It swings him out. That's what I mean. Inconsistent, but I think that Simmons, you've got to give these players a chance to come on learn to prove a point. We've seen in the past Chelsea players come, even like when we had Harry Wilson before. Plenty of loan players in the past have had a success. I think that if you give these players a chance, they've got nothing to lose. So I think in terms of where you might have the likes of Slater nervous, Jones nervous right now because of a losing streak and they're under pressure. Play these players that have got nothing to lose and might get a better outcome.
So what we'll do now then is we'll drop onto the debut of the FanCAM. So obviously this is a new initiative that we decided to do. So any of the listeners, if you ever wanted to feel more involved with the podcast, this is your way to do it. Basically, if you ever want to get involved, just get in touch with either me or the podcast account, either, and I'll try and sort it out for you. But we're going to ask for you guys to send your thoughts of games in as well. So we've got 4 in now. So I think we'll go straight to the first ones from Joe.
I was buzzing yesterday after work until I saw the team line up at 6:45 and my mood just flipped. How is Shota Arveladze watching those games and thinking this is working? He's choosing the same players in the same system. Matty Ingram's a good shot stopper. He's a good classic goalkeeper. He's a great championship goalkeeper. But Nathan Baxter suits the system better. He's better with his feet. He wants the ball. He wants to play at the back. When our defensive line are high, he will sweep. We're playing a 5-back with old school fullbacks. They're not athletic. They're not particularly creative. We need to play a system that suits the players we've had. We've got Pelkas, we've got Vale, we've got Simons. Get them playing. I don't understand why we're not getting them playing. We need to find some form. We need to do it very, very quickly, or I don't think Shota's going to have a job. He's got nothing to lose now. He's gone for the 5-back game after game after game. Try something different. It can't be any worse, can it? We can't be shipping this many goals without scoring. We need to change. We need to do it quick.
Yeah, I felt the pain in that clip.
Yeah. What he's saying is right there.
Yeah, it pretty much resonated what we've said. I mean, the thing is we know already from the past couple of seasons we've had in the Championship that once you get into a bad run, it's so easy to just keep losing. Something has to start. I mean, we questioned the squad's character, obviously, when we've suffered our first loss this season. We says, look, it's going to be interesting to see how these players bounce back now. And we did. And then, now that a couple more bad performances are creeping in, we're not seemingly bouncing back and the performances aren't really improving either. They're actually getting worse. So something does have to happen. If that means a couple of players, we sign creative players like Pelkas, like you said, so stick them in. Yeah, I agree with that one, to be fair. Next one's from Kieran Webster.
So yeah, Hull City versus Cardiff at the Cardiff City Stadium this week. I think it's going to be a really tough game. Obviously we've got Benjamin Tete injured, potentially Cynic coming in, meant to be in training this week as well. Cardiff they've had an okay start this season, and so have we. So I think it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Assume he meant Swansea.
Yeah.
Short and sweet. I mean, they're both in Wales. It kind of counts, did it? Max Tiger.
For Cardiff City, I'm going to go with a Baxter in goal. I'm going to go Greaves, McLaughlin and Christie. Elder and Jones for the back. I'm going to go Tufan, Seri and Pelkas with Williams. And then I'm going to put Estepinian up top again. I feel like he'll get his goal scoring mentality back. And I'm going to go Cardiff 1, Hull 2. See if we can get back on track with a win. Up the Tigers.
Again, I assume you mean Swansea.
I think you've messed up here, Ant. I think it's your fault.
I don't. I deleted all the old ones. These are the new ones that I was sent.
Where these videos made for Cardiff.
I checked on the first one. It's the correct ones. I just said the wrong teams. I'm not taking. I'm not taking blame for that one. Last one, Wilshaw.
Winnable game for City on Saturday against Cardiff. Tufan and Seri back in the midfield. That'd be massive for us. Those are two quality players. And then I'd have Pelkas starting because when he came on against Sheffield, he had a few good touches. He looks like there's a proper player in there. I'd be tempted to switch back to 4 at the back there just to give that midfield a bit more support because they look lost on Saturday. But if we do that, I can see us winning 2-0.
So,
bold predictions. I mean, to predict a win is very bold at the minute.
How come everyone said it was Cardiff though?
I have no idea. I mean, it might be.
I have an idea.
Go on.
Well,
go on.
Those videos were the ones that we didn't use for the Cardiff episode.
Yeah, but I deleted them and re-thingied.
Yeah, well,
I'm blaming StreamYard. No one's to blame for that one, guys.
That's fair.
We'll sort that one out next time. That will be improved. It's got teething problems, okay. But yeah, essentially. So if we do like previews, quick reviews.
That second. What was the guy that said start Williams? I don't agree with that.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because I think for us to get the best out of this team, we need wingers. But at the minute, we don't have any. The only wingers we've got really available are Randell Williams and Ryan Longman, who also is not particularly brilliant this season. I would not necessarily play. I'd play a 4-2-3-1, but I wouldn't necessarily have wingers. I would sort of use them as 3 attacking midfielders and let them drop deep and create like a 5 in midfield when we're defending. And if you could have, Pelkas, Vale, and Tufan as your attacking 3 behind the striker, I think that sounds very exciting. And you can let them run.
When it's Aliar because
Aliar, I think, has been a huge miss.
Literally, he made Coyle look fantastic at right back because the way he tracks back, literally every single time he loses the ball, he wins it back. And even at wing back as well. I think you'd take him at wing back over Elder right now if he was going to play that system. Because against Bristol City first game, I think he put in a man of the match performance, and he's never played left wing back in his life. So that shows what type of player he is. He can play anywhere and do well. So
there we go. It was me. I'll take blame for it. I mean, the thing is that I had the old ones on and I deleted them, and then I uploaded the new ones I got and renamed them. So I don't know how that's happened, but I haven't been relegated. Nathaniel joined first, Ian. I joined a bit late. I do usually do my recordings downstairs, but the kids are still up at the minute because they're poorly. So I've been pushed to the top floor, so I was a bit late. In terms of anything else to cover, I don't think there is much more that we can discuss.
Shall we do what our lineups would be?
And score predictions?
2-0
to Swansea. You can go first.
Maybe. Well, I mean, I think we should probably bring in Baxter. Ingram's made 2 mistakes in the last 2 matches that he should have saved the McBurney goal, and the second goal we conceded against Stoke was his fault. And then I guess, I'm not allowed to say we'd play 5 at the back. So I guess 4 at the back would do.
Disagree with you.
The interesting thing is, though, really, I'm not sure what the lineup should be at all, other than, I know some players should definitely play, but there's several, the defence is a problem, but do you drop Figueiredo or Jones? It depends. So I wish I hadn't suggested this now because I have no idea.
I know what my lineup would be, to be fair. Go back to Coyle right back. Figueiredo, Greaves. It's hard because I don't think we should keep Figueiredo, but I like having a right footer on the right side. Obviously, Elder left back. 2 holding midfielders. I'd drop Slater for a game, and I'd bring in Simmons if I could. Simmons and Seri next to each other. And then on right wing, Pelkas, just ahead of the midfielders, I'd have Tufan. And then left wing, I'd have Harvey Vale. Right, Simon's here. And then striker, Estepinian. So I don't know if it was Simmons, Simons.
Well, I agree, except one player. I think Tyler Smith deserves a go.
Oh.
Well, where would you play him? So would you play a 5-3-2 then? Like we played against Stoke?
No, I mean...
It's just
I was joking about Tyler Smith, of course.
Was you?
Well, the thing about Vale and Simons is that it's an odd one because Shotta said they're not ready, but they'd been playing in the Premier League too. So from a fitness standpoint, I would have thought they'd be ready. Yeah. So surprised that they've not been involved at all because Pelkas hadn't played.
Baz mentioned it on Twitter. He said the Chelsea lads he keeps asking Shota about both the Chelsea lads, and all he says is they're not ready. But he said he's confused by that because Vale was on the bench for Chelsea in the Premier League, so if he's
and
not ready.
And then literally Alexander Isak signed for Newcastle, and literally played against Liverpool next day. So I think if player signed, he's fully fit.
Unless he means that they're not ready in terms of they've not trained enough with the lads to justify being chucked into the team.
Yeah,
I mean that's the only reason I think that he could have to defend his decision to not play Pelkas.
Well, neither of them have actually played much professional football at all. Whereas Pelkas has, of course.
Simons, I think, is a defensive midfielder / centre back, isn't he? So if you wanted to, you could stick him as the right centre back.
Yeah.
And it just depends on what combo you want to use. I mean, I'd personally like to see us go to a 4 at the back. I think I would stick Maka in right centre back, even despite being left-footed. I think he was one of the players last season that was one of our most consistent performers. I think the thing is with Maka is, similar to Figueiredo, he's got a mistake in him, but it was very rare with Maka, and then most of the other games he was like a 7 or 8 out of 10, wasn't he? So I think he has to be in alongside Greaves. They've already got that understanding. They played together last season. Just take both Jones and Figueiredo out of the limelight for a bit. They just need to, sort of have a little breather and go back to basics a bit. I'd like to see Christie play now that we've had a little bit more time for him to settle in. If he's fully fit, I'd like to see Christian right back, but realistically, it's probably going to be Coyle. So I'd say Coyle, Maka, Greaves, Elder. Then I'd keep with Slater and Sari because I do think they have a good partnership. I just think maybe Sari's taking a bit of liberties at the minute because he's not going to do any defending, is he? So I think Slater tries to accommodate for that and maybe a bit too much at times. So if they can find that balance in midfield, they'll be fine.
That's why I'd like to see that Simons play next to him.
Just to be that shield.
That's what I mean. I think you need more protection. I think, look, when Fulham got promoted, he had Harrison Reed next to him, more defensive. Like they got promoted literally with Harrison Reed and Seri as their two midfielders. So
play like a Grant McCann style 4-3-3 with a CDM.
I think they played 3-4-3. I think Fulham when they got promoted. I'm pretty sure because they had Cavallera, Mitrovic, and Knockout. I think that was the front three, which isn't a bad front three to be fair. And then they had the wing backs like Christie, and then I think they had like Joe O'Brien on the other side. So I think that, if you've got the right wing backs, look, we've got San Christie now. I think if you've got the right wing backs, like we said before, that system can work, as we've seen before. I mean, I remember last season when Josh Emmanuel came in against Middlesbrough, and we was fantastic that day with that system, with the 3 at the back and the 2 wing backs. We had Fleming one side. I know Keane was Potter one side and Emmanuel the other, and they both just got up and down the pitch. They was both so attacking, dangerous, obviously, because on one side you had Lewis Potter cutting in and shooting, and then you had Emmanuel putting crosses into the box. I think that's, if you obviously have the right players, it's effective. But right now we don't until we get players back and up to speed. I think
we said regularly, haven't we? It's one of the biggest shames or wasted opportunities that we don't have Josh Emmanuel, because
he would be perfect.
The moment we switched to a system that suited him down to a T, we lost him. It's really, really frustrating, really, really bad stroke of luck. I mean, hopefully he's okay. He's not been included in the squad, has he? So,
it's sad. It's really sad because he's only like 24, 25. So I think he's still got such a long career ahead. And he was like coming into our squad, in the League One season. Obviously, the first half of that season, he was one of our standout players. Him and Wilkes built up like a great partnership. That was one of the reasons why Wilkes was really good that season. Why he hit the ground running, and then obviously gets injured, comes back, and then obviously gets injured again. Well, becomes ill. So it's like it's a shame.
So I'd play that team, and then I'd have, like I mentioned earlier, I'd have Pelkas, Tufan, and Vale as the 3 behind Estepinian. I'd like to be a bit more inverted with them, so that we have got a bit more options in the midfield and let them just rotate. Because if you give Tufan, Pelkas, and Vale that license to just find space, no opposition stopping them 3. You can't mark all 3 of them out of the game, because then you're creating spaces out wide. So, you've got to have a multi-pronged attack, haven't you?
The thing is, like Haaland does for City, Aaron Haaland, he has like the least touches every single game. but he always has the decisive moment in the match, and that's what we need Estepinian to be for us, and that's what he has been at the start of the season. Keep him in the box, provide him service, and he'll score eventually. Like, do you know what I mean? That's all we need him to do. Like, you get a lot of strikers get frustrated and drop off, and they're not in the box. You just need him to stay in the box, and that's his job. Scoring. That's what he's, a penalty box striker. So I think if we start, if you play the wingers like that, like you said there, Vale, Pelkas, putting more service into him, I think it'd be, I'm just interested to see that. I think it's good that we've got these options now, like exciting, young talent coming in. I think just want to see it on Saturday.
So many more to come back from injury as well. Like we say, the likes of Cynic and Tete to come back as well. Obviously, he won't be back until January onwards, but the potential that if we're in a decent position when all these players come back to really push on and have those options, it's very enticing. So, score predictions then. I'll come to you first, Nathaniel. What score are you going for?
I really don't know. We're not going to keep a clean. We're not going to keep a clean sheet, but maybe we can, nick a point. So 1-1. We're on Sky, but we've got to stop that at some point. I really don't think that's just a coincidence, isn't it? That the players don't really care. So 1-1.
1-1. Tom?
I'm torn. I think 2-2 maybe. I think there'll be goals in the game. I think I don't know, because obviously last season we drew 0-0, but I see them being goals. I think both sides attacking. I think this team we've got right now is fearless. To be fair, we'll go out there, we'll play, but I think there'll be goals. I don't see us keep a clean sheet like Nathaniel said. I just 2-2.
Yeah, I don't see us keeping a clean sheet. The thing is, I do think this is the perfect game for a reaction, but all Hull City superstitions is suggesting a loss today. So Swansea are in the bottom three. We're on Sky. We're away. It's midday kickoff. I can't physically bring myself to predict a win.
Biggs, I'm looking at the table now. It's just
I'm pushing the boat out for a draw.
Yeah, I'd take a draw right now, to be honest.
I think we'd all take a draw at the minute just to sort of stop that losing run. I think I'm going to go for a 1-1.
Yeah.
I was going to say 2-1 loss, but I want to try and be a bit more.
Yeah.
I want to see a reaction.
I do as well.
And I think it'd be nice for. I think Pelkas will get himself up and running. Before we finish, then we've got another quick question. Shot her out or in? It's quite early, but you said Nathaniel in at the minute, didn't you?
In, yeah, definitely in.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm in 100%.
Yeah, a bit too soon, I think, to obviously. I think it's no, it's very. I mean, it's reasonable to criticise him at the minute, but I think it's slightly harsh to be saying that he should probably lose his job at the minute. Like we said, there's so many different variables contributing to this run of form at the minute. Like we said, players out of form, players injured. We've lost most of our attacking outlets. It's Aliyah, I think, has been one of the biggest misses that's kind of gone under the
100%
the radar at the minute, because his pace, his trickery, the way he would stretch defenses, create spaces for us, and we've really missed him not being.
That's what we've lost, really. Like, if you think about it, that's the main reason for our downfall. Before we had Tete and Aliyah running in behind, and now we play a 5 at the back system. Who's running behind anymore? It's like we're isolating ourselves essentially. So that's why player wingers on Saturday.
Having Aliyah gave us the two different options in attack, because we could either go direct to Tete to hold it up, or we could try and build it to Aliyah and then try and
that's what I mean, and that's where it was working. Yeah. I do have sympathy for Shotta, but hopefully he can put it right. You know what I mean?
I mean, because another frustrating thing is like we don't really have the options on wingers, like we touched on. Like Williams and I think Longman are the only other two that are natural wingers that we can play. Vale and Pelkas can play out there, but the more of a number 10.
Cynic soon.
Yeah,
I don't know when he's coming.
He's on the left side, isn't he? Yeah. I think he's in the squad, isn't he? So he should be back in a few weeks, I'd imagine.
I reckon he could well make his debut against Luton or Wigan after the international break.
Yeah, would be nice.
Good timing.
He better be good.
The international break is a good timing, because say we did lose on Saturday, got another 2 weeks to sort of put things right, but And we've got two more weeks to get players up to speed more. But it's a draw would be very good on Saturdays.
Right, I think we've touched on everything now, have we? I've not forgotten anything, have I, Nathaniel? You usually like to correct me. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're all good. We're about six subscribers away, I think, from 300. So if there's any of you watching that haven't hit subscribe, please
smash
do.
that red button.
Yeah, I've got OCD kicking in. I don't like it not being on an even number. Well, not on a whole number like.
I'll have to make 6 more accounts and just
only cheating yourself, Tom. Obviously, episode as usual sponsored by 6 Yards Out of Pearson's Bar. You've got the Amber Circle Facebook group to join, where we post our stuff in exclusively on Facebook now instead of all of them. Obviously, the FCAs are shut at the minute, but they reopen on the 19th, so we'll keep you posted on that. So hopefully that'll be an exciting reveal. Swansea on the weekend. Hopefully we've got a nice positive podcast again, because we don't like getting into the habit of doing negative episode after negative episode, which would be at the minute is maybe a blessing that we didn't have to do the last episode. Sort of saved your ears for a bit. But obviously thanks to everyone who's got support. Thanks to you two for joining me again. We will be back. I would imagine, are you doing a preview at some point next week? Who we've got after Swansea?
Luton.
I
know a Luton person. I have Luton contacts. Yeah.
There you go. So we'll probably be back first with Nathaniel's preview episode, and then we'll be back for our main episode on the Thursday following. So thanks to everybody who's joined in, commenting. Like I said, if you haven't hit subscribe, do so already. Then we'll see you next time.